All right. Hello there, everyone. How are y'all doing? Can you guys all see me and hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool. Good. Awesome. All right. So let's see how many people are in here so far. All right. There'll probably be a few more people logging on here in a few minutes, but here's another one. We'll get started here in just a sec. Okay. Good. Here's a few more people coming in. Yeah, this is how we'll always start class. Throughout the quarter, I'll just kind of send you guys that link a few minutes before class starts on Wednesdays at our time, and then we'll just go and do our hour-long lecture on Wednesdays. So most Wednesdays there will be a lecture. There'll be like a couple weeks where we won't actually have one. Kind of some days when we're doing critiques and other things, there won't actually be like a new lecture that week, but for the most part, every week on Wednesday we'll have our lecture. I'll send out that link and you guys can log on that way. All right, good. So now we're getting this filled up. We got 20 people in here. Cool. So yeah, did everyone get my email that I sent you guys? I think like last Saturday, weekend before class started, that kind of had a general description of the class and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I got that email.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I got that email.
Sweet. So yeah, that is kind of most of the general overview. I'll kind of see if you guys have any questions based on that. But that will kind of be when we log on here to Zoom, that'll be the best way for you guys to kind of interact with me. So we've been online for like a year and a half now. I think I've taught just as long online as I did in person at Green River. So it's definitely kind of, weird for me. It feels like it's been forever since I've been in the actual classroom or on campus, which it kind of has been. But I'm sure you guys are all used to the online classes now and all that stuff. So, but I want to give you guys all the same information that you would get and try to replicate the experience of actually being in the classroom. I find like the best way to do that is just make sure you guys come to the live lectures, and that's the best time where you can, ask me questions. I can look at your work. I can kind of walk through different steps if there's any confusion on the projects or on different things going on in the class. So yeah, just use this like our hour together, on Zoom is like a time for you to, be able to interact and ask questions, and kind of we'll try and replicate that in class experience. So yeah, we'll have our weekly meetings, and so in the Zoom lectures here, I'll be going over the art concepts. So we'll be talking about, line quality, types of design, how to develop thumbnails, and all the different art concepts we'll actually do together here in the Zoom lecture. So that's kind of one half of the class. The other half of the class is you guys learning Adobe Illustrator. Have people started to get Adobe Illustrator installed on their computers?
Yeah, I have downloaded
Yeah, I got it.
You guys got that? You guys got the email from Adobe that gave you guys access to the account and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sweet. So that'll if anyone didn't get that, just send me a message after class. And I'll usually leave the Zoom chat open for like a few minutes after class too if people have individual questions. Okay, so if you haven't received access, I see a few people in the chat that haven't. Just send me a message after class and I'll double check that IT got your email inputted correctly and that that they get it resent to you. So it's nice that you guys get access to that program. So yeah, one half of the class will be learning art concepts. The other half will be learning the actual program. I found that like kind of doing it with, and you guys got the YouTube playlist with our like the tutorials that I made.
Yeah, I watched the 4 videos.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I watched them.
Cool. So that'll be, so I find it kind of easier to do like the digital side through these YouTube videos, because then you guys can pause them, rewind them, just replay something that's confusing over and over. But Illustrator does just take a lot of like repetition and practice. I know it took me like starting and stopping learning Illustrator 2 or 3 times before I finally, got it down to where I'm comfortable with it. So it does take time, and especially the first few weeks, you'll kind of be frustrated with it. But just know that's completely normal. And you just kind of, if you find yourself frustrated with one step, just kind of go back to the beginning of the videos and just, rewatch again. It'll come more naturally to some people than others, but yeah, and then if any issues do come up with it where you can't figure something out, just send me an email or message me through Canvas, and I will be able to help you the best I can. Okay, so yeah, so hopefully, yeah, you guys got your supplies. So what you'll need is just like a sketchbook for drawing. I just have one like this. I know some people asked if they can use Procreate on an iPad. You can use that if you have that as an option instead of a sketchbook. But try and just treat it like it's a sketchbook. So I don't want you to use like a whole bunch of different brushes in there. Just kind of choose one pen brush or one pencil brush and use that to draw as if it's a sketchbook. So you need that sketchbook, access to Adobe Illustrator, which I just talked about, and then you'll just need a way to get your drawings from your sketchbook into the computer. So if we were in the classroom, you guys would learn to use the scanners in there, but since we're not in that classroom, usually just taking a picture of your sketchbook with your phone camera should be enough to, usually it's good enough quality to then take that image on your phone and put it into your computer. So it's just getting a sketch from your sketchbook into your computer so you can finish it off in Adobe Illustrator. Okay, any questions on supplies or anything like that? Anything that came up from the email that I sent you guys over the weekend?
I couldn't find 12-inch. I found the 11.5-inch. Is that fine?
Yep. Yeah. So for most that sketchbook, I don't have a specific size. I say approximately 8.5 by 11, which is just standard piece of paper. If it's a little bigger, or a little smaller, that's fine as well.
Also, like for the sketchbooks, they had like a big old mini table size one. So I just grabbed like a book and it had lines in it. Do I need it to be blank?
I definitely recommend it being blank. I think it'll be easier for you when you're like coming up with ideas and thumbnails and sketches for the class. It'll be easier just to have some blank paper.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, if you have a chance to get a blank one, that would be best. And then just general drawing pens and pencils. As I mentioned, I use like a brush pen here, really nice little Pentel brush pen, which I've used for years that I really like. I have a few other, these are just like more like fine tip ballpoint type pens. They're like actually intended for writing, but they're also really good for drawing. So if you have any, just like a simple ballpoint pen, a Sharpie, a regular pencil, all that's fine. But if you have like art supplies that you've used in the past in other classes, feel free to use those and experiment with those. Just stay away from like messy mediums like charcoal or like pencil that can really smudge. Something that's just a little cleaner that like it won't smudge along your hand in your sketchbook will be best. Oh, Alice said, can I use my personal sketchbook? Yeah, that's fine if it still has pages, blank pages in it. Yeah, you can just add to that if you already have a sketchbook, no problem. So yeah, so that will be all right. Oh, Ryan had a good question. So yeah, the projects will be submitted as a PDF file. So I'll teach you guys how to do that. So all the projects basically will start out as a rough sketch in your sketchbook, and you're finishing the final art in Adobe Illustrator. So we're going to talk a lot about the creative process. So how do I come up with an idea that's a rough sketch in my sketchbook? How do I start with a bunch of sketches, choose one that's really good, make it slightly better, and then finish it off in Adobe Illustrator? So that's kind of going to be our general practice, to go from rough sketch to finish art in Illustrator. And when you turn in your projects as a PDF file, which I'll get into later, I do want to see that whole process. So I want to see your rough sketches. I want to see how you change that rough sketch into final digital art and kind of that transition from idea to final art. So oftentimes, or all the times, your rough sketches will be included as part of the project. Okay. So yeah, have you guys logged on to Canvas? Obviously you have, because you've seen your messages. So here's our class's Canvas page right here. Have you guys all been on here?
Yes.
Good, good. Where is it? Here it is. Good. So yeah, this is kind of, you know, the hub of our class here. The best way to get in touch with me is just messaging me through Canvas. You can send it to my email as well. But if you message me through Canvas, I get a message here in Canvas and at my school email. So I'm like twice as likely to see it. So you can just message me anytime if you guys ever have questions, if you're ever confused about something, if you have technical issues, if you need help on an assignment. I just encourage people to like message me as much as they can, as if we were in class, you know, and I was in there and you guys were able to just pop in and ask a question. I'll usually check my email throughout the week. You know, during the work week, I'll check it at least once or twice a day just to kind of see if any questions come in there. So in terms of this class of like what you need to do to succeed and get a good grade, there are 4 main projects. So you see them here, Introduction to Illustrator, Line of Movement, Mood, and Narrative Illustration. These are our 4 main projects. It has the point total here, 150, 200, 200, and 250. So you can see obviously the final will be weighted more heavily towards your grade. So that is a good way to kind of, you know, improve your grade throughout the quarter. But that's going to be a vast majority of your grade. So if you get those projects done, you'll, you know, you'll get a decent grade in the class if you just complete those projects. The way your grade really starts dropping is if you forget one of these projects and you have just a 0. It's really hard to recover and get a passing grade if you have a 0 on one of these projects. So it's always better to turn something in rather than nothing, so you avoid that 0. But each project has, you know, steps laid out here in Canvas, and I'll have student samples. I'll have my example. So I would say start looking here at this first project, Project 1, Introduction to Illustrator. We'll be doing a couple weeks on October 4th. This first project is not really creative. It's just making sure you guys understand the basics of Adobe Illustrator. So can you kind of check the boxes and use the basic tools, follow the instructions and things like that. So it's really simple. It's not creative. You can make it creative if you want, but I just want to make sure you guys have the basics of Illustrator down before we start to get more complicated. But I encourage you guys always to kind of look ahead on these, look ahead to different projects once we finish one and start looking at the requirements for the next one and work ahead on the project as much as you can as well.
Yeah, because I was looking, I was just like confused. I was like, I wish we had face-to-face because I know like you'll be able to explain it more to us. And I was just like, are we just picking one of those options for like all the different boxes? Are we doing all of them, or I just didn't know.
Yes, so this can definitely be confusing. So like I can do a demo next week during class. I have a demo video set up for these 2. But you know, you'll basically make 6 boxes that are laid out like this one here. It's kind of hard to see. And each box, I just want to see a variety of things in there. So box 1, I want to see a variety of lines. So dotted lines, thick lines, thin lines, texture lines. Box 2, I want to see different types of rectangles with different fills and different strokes. Box 2, 3, and 4 are all kind of similar, but with different shapes. So rectangles.
Oh, that's not so bad.
Yeah, rectangles, ovals, polygons, and then the pen tool there. And if you guys saw our playlist here, so hopefully you guys start watching these videos here, stroke and fill. So here, this video, episode 8 shows you just how to set up that project. So this whole video is just how to set up the project, how to get it open up in Illustrator, how to set up your boxes, and what to start filling the boxes with. So
so we're not drawing these on our sketchbook?
Nope, this first project is all in Illustrator. We'll start with the sketchbook for project 2.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Good question, yeah. So like I said, not really creative for this first project. It's basically just making sure you guys have kind of the digital tools understood. And in addition to that, I have lab hours as well. That just got scheduled. Just a sec, let me find where those are. There we go. So write these lab hours down. I'll put them here in the chat. So those are my lab hours, okay? And I put those on Canvas here as well. Where is it? Lab hours. So here is my lab hours as well on Canvas. So I will be just hanging out in front of my computer with Zoom open on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So you can just click on that link if you guys have any questions there. So I encourage you guys to take advantage of these, especially like, you know, a couple days before projects due. If you have technical issues with Illustrator, if you need feedback on your work before you turn it in, coming to these lab hours is a good way to kind of, you know, mimic that face-to-face experience that we may be missing. And I can also have you guys share your computer screen, and I can like walk you through steps if things are confusing. Oh yeah, and if someone for some reason you're unable to make these hours and you have a really pressing issue, I can schedule times outside of these normal hours to meet with you guys. So I just want to, you know, make myself available for you guys as much as possible to hopefully help you guys get through the class well. Yeah, Regan, yeah, you should have a computer for Illustrator with Illustrator on it. There is a mobile version of Illustrator, or a version for it for the version of Illustrator for the iPad, but it's not quite the full version of Illustrator, so it's better to have that for a computer or on a computer. So yeah, if you want to borrow a computer and then also kind of use it with your iPad, that will kind of be the best. So you learn how to use it on a computer and learn what you can do on a computer versus what you can't do on an iPad. And Sydney said, can I resend the Adobe link? I'm not in charge of sending those links. If it's in your inbox, check your inbox and your spam folder. It should be in there. And if you can't find it, let me know and I'll give your name to IT and they can make sure you are on the list there. Okay. I think that is the general information for the class. Any questions on any stuff? Oh, one more thing. We will also be doing weekly drawing challenges in our discussion section. Oh, so most of them are up here. I got to go take these down. These will get changed a little bit. And you can see here all these dates are wrong. So I'll be taking these down and just putting these up week by week. But so we'll have those weekly drawing challenges, not every week, but most weeks. And it'll kind of just reinforce what we talked about in the lecture in Zoom that week. So these will come up and you can, it's basically, it'll probably be like a 20-minute, half-hour little drawing challenge for you to do. And you'll post your sketch here to the discussions. And I'll usually make a little comment or two on them. You guys can comment on each other's work. And they're usually worth about 5 points. So it's not like a whole big, it's not going to affect your grade a whole lot, but it can basically bump you up a little bit or, you know, bump you down just a little bit. And it'll help you learn the concepts and reinforce those concepts that we talk about during the lecture a lot better. Oh, Ryan, yeah.
Do we have one of those?
Sorry,
One of those challenges for the first week? for this week?
Yeah, I'll send one out tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
And I'll email you guys usually the next day after our lecture or the afternoon after our lecture. And just kind of describe where it is and when it's due. It'll usually be like you can work on it over the weekend. It'll be like due next Tuesday. Yeah, Ryan, I did hear something about new email logins. I haven't heard about that yet. Nope, no in person at all. We're all online, Lily. Okay. No, all lectures are just here on Zoom. I hope that was everyone's understanding when they signed up for the class. Okay. All right. Any other general questions before we start our short lecture and discussion for today? Oh yeah, good question. Yeah, I record every lecture. So if you're ever not able to make it to class or whatever, or you have to leave early or you're sick, I will upload that to a separate YouTube playlist, and I'll send you guys all that link too as well. So yeah, or if you need stuff repeated, if you just need to watch it again, you'll have access to every lecture on YouTube. Oh, and if you guys ever have trouble with like getting assignments in on time, I know there's a bunch of different stuff people are dealing with. So if you ever feel like you're going to be late on an assignment, please just like reach out to me and let me know what's going on. And usually I'm flexible with those due dates if you have like a reason of why a project isn't in on time. Oh, that's a good question, Hui. If you have access to Illustrator after the quarter, I kind of think you don't have access after the quarter. I'm not sure though. Has anyone taken another art class and had it know if they've been able to keep access to any of the programs that they got from school?
Should be per class you go through.
Yeah, just for the quarter. I think it's just for the quarter. Yeah, and then you can decide if you want to, pay for it yourself later on.
So as far as that first project, so basically just keep going over those videos and set those boxes up and just walk through the videos and 4 videos will walk me through every step of getting all the instructions.
Exactly. Yeah. So the videos, episodes 1 through 10. Oh no, 1 through 9 will give you all the information you need for that first project. So yeah, just kind of watch those, make sure you can do all the basics. And then once you start to actually work on the process, a couple of those videos will walk you through the actual first project.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any other general questions on how class is going to go, supplies? All right. So we'll have just a short little lecture today, just kind of give you an idea on how this is going to go, just to get the ball rolling on stuff. We'll look at some art and set you guys up to do some drawing for the drawing challenge later this week. But usually the notes that I have are visual, so I'll put up different images on the screen. Next class, I'll be doing some like drawing. I'll be drawing stuff. I'll be showing pictures. So my advice is to just kind of have your sketchbook out. And you can sketch different your own version of what you're looking at and what I'm talking about. Because really the best way to get better at drawing is to draw, and the best way to understand these concepts that I'm showing you is to draw them yourselves. Just listening to it isn't going to, put it in your mind as well as if you're actually going through and drawing these different things I'm describing and the different things that we're looking at together. So hopefully everyone has something they can draw on today. And kind of that's just how we'll do each class. You guys will kind of do some sketching, some drawing as I'm lecturing and going over different concepts. Okay. Oh, and as I'm lecturing or talking, feel free to stop me anytime if you guys have a question or anything's confusing, or you need me to repeat myself. You can turn on your mic or just hop in the chat. I'll try and have that open if any questions come up. Okay, this is our general information. Yes, we went over all this stuff. Oh, here's my email there if you need it. But like I said, it's probably better just to email me through, message me through Canvas, because then I'll see it at my school email as well as in Canvas there as well. Oh, and for myself, if you want to, I suggest looking at any art class you guys ever take, kind of look at the art that your teacher does for themselves, because they're always going to slightly influence your own style of art and things like that. So this is my website, andrewsteers.com. I do illustrations and comic books and storyboards. This type of art I do. I do freelance art as well as teaching. I'm working on some of my own projects. So, I'm going to come to this class and design it, slightly with kind of a more illustration background, but I try and bring in lots of different types of examples to this class, from, photography to like film shots, as well as illustration, painting, drawing. So I want to try and give you guys a wide different of examples. You can also look at my Instagram art here. It's Steers Drawing if you guys want to take a look at that. I just post sketches and artwork and things like that. Yes, we are using Illustrator. That will be our main program. This is Photoshop, what I'm in right now. But Illustrator looks similar to this. Okay. All right, has anyone ever taken an art class before, either at Green River or in high school? Have people taken art classes before in the past?
I took one, but never to illustrate, never on the Illustrator. It just was like you take a picture, and that's how we did it, the way we taking it and sending it to the PDF. But we would just take the picture and we would just submit it like that. Okay. So now transforming it to Illustrator is just new for me.
Nice. Okay. Nice. Okay, so it looks like most people have had some sort of experience. Does anyone keep like a sketchbook for themselves, just like drawing for your own personal art, or kind of like want to develop their own art style and work on different stuff? Good. Yeah, fill up as many sketchbooks as you can, or drawing on your iPad. Yeah, same idea. So I have an iPad that I draw on, as well as a traditional sketchbook, so I go back and forth. Is anyone completely brand new to drawing or art classes? Has anyone not taken an art class before? New to art? Good, good. Oh, nice. Your own comic strips. Good. So yeah, if you're brand new or you guys have experience, this is a cool class because practically 10 years ago, because I want to make this class so everyone can get something out of it. So whether you're experienced and you've been working on your own, doing your own art, I want to give you some new ideas that can hopefully help improve your art. If you're completely new and starting out, that's also not bad, because a lot of times people that do their own art can develop bad habits, or things that aren't helping them develop as artists. Yeah, if you want to share, Regan said he wanted to share his art on Instagram. You can share your Instagram down here, Regan. If anyone wants to see. Yeah, if you guys have your own Instagrams or websites or anything like that where your art is, feel free to share it there in the chat or send it to me. I'd like to take a look at it too. Yeah, so I want this class to just, basically the goal is for everyone to improve on their drawing. So I want everyone to become a better designer. I want everyone to become a better artist by the time this quarter's over. And the best way to do that is just, repetition of drawing. So draw as much as you can, even if you're unexperienced with it. And even if you're nervous about drawing, I want you guys to try and get rid of those nerves and think about don't worry about making perfect drawings, especially when we're working in your sketchbooks. Sketchbooks are a place to make bad drawings, rough drawings, drawings that are never going to see the light of day, drawings that are imperfect. It's really just a chance for you to practice. And with each drawing you do, no matter where you are in your development, you're always going to get better with every drawing you do. You're never going to go backwards. Sometimes it's hard to see that improvement, but the more you do, the better you get. So when I was in art school, the best class I had was just a figure drawing class where we drew people in like 1, 2, and 3 minute poses, because I just did tons and tons and tons of figure drawings over and over and over. And that was the best way that made me better at drawing. And as I learned that in school, I really just got into the practice of it and the habit of it. So now, you know, as I'm working as a teacher and working as my own artist, I still try and force myself to do daily drawings of some sort so I can keep getting better. Like I still want to learn. I still want to keep getting better at art. I know there's things I can improve on. And that's what's pretty exciting about art and design, is that you're always going to get better. So you're never going to get worse at it. And so that'll just be our goal, to get you guys drawing as much as possible. And hopefully you guys will all improve and become better artists by the time the quarter is over. So, and I'm not going to be grading you like, you know, on how good a drawing is. What I'm going to be grading you on is, are you using the concepts that we've talked about in class? Okay, so our goal is not going to be to like draw a realistic face or like perfectly shaded, you know, mug sitting on the table or something like that. We're going to be creating compositions and creating designs and using these different things we're talking about. So that is what we will be doing for drawing. Okay, so what is design? So this class is called Beginning Design. So what is design? Have you guys heard of any different types of design out there, professional jobs or types of design that you may have heard of? Transportation design, yeah. There we go. What kind of transportation? So designing like public transportation or or designing actual vehicles? Web design, yep. 3D design. Yep, graphic design. Web design, yep. Okay, yeah, actually designing cars and trucks, that's definitely one. There's another name for it too. I'm blanking on it. Industrial design. Yes, industrial design, that's it. Animation, yes, definitely. Animation, I'll put slash character design. Designing characters for video games, movies, anything like that. Fashion design. Yeah, product design. Anime, yeah, I mean, that's a type of animation. Yeah, book covers. That's a type of, you know, graphic design. How are the pictures and words going to fit together on a cover?
Like cartoons?
Yeah, cartoon. Yeah, designing.
What's that?
That's yeah, that's like animation design. That's designing characters, and that's designing, you know, how to tell a story with pictures and things like that.
Wow.
So these are all different types of design. Okay, so all of these have kind of foundational principles in common. So a lot of these have all these things, that underlining foundations that are the same between all of these different types of designs. So what we're going to be doing is talking about working with composition design. Okay. And what is a composition? So for us, a composition is basically just going to be a frame. Okay. So just a frame that you put things in. So think of how many pieces of or types of art have something here in a frame. So what type of art? So what I really like about this class is that there's so much two-dimensional art out there that what I'm teaching you can then be applied to every single or all different types of compositions. So if you like to do painting, if you like to do photography, if you like to work in film on a screen, if you want to design, websites, if you want to do illustration, if you want to do comic books, if you want to do like realistic oil paintings, all of these are putting something inside of a frame and designing a composition. Okay, so that's going to be our big buzzword, is we are designing compositions in this class. Okay, so our compositions are going to start in the sketchbook and finish off in Adobe Illustrator. Okay, so but all the kind of rules and the concepts that I'm going to teach you guys will be applicable to all different sorts of art. So that's what I like about you guys can kind of take from this what you will, and then we'll go over a bunch of stuff in this class. And when you guys go on to do your own work or go and take other art classes, you can use things from this class in different types of art. Okay, so what can you fill up? What can you put in this composition? Well, most basic things you can put in this composition are lines, shapes, and value. Okay, very simply. Simple line, simple shape, and then value is just shades of gray. Okay, so for this class, there's no color for this class. So everything is in shades of gray. Okay, so you guys can write that down in your notes, no color. So no project should have any color in it. So just shades of gray. And the reason we designed the class that way is just because color is so complicated in and of itself. It can take multiple classes just to understand how to utilize color in an effective way. So kind of just simplify it and just take color out of this Art 109 class. And then when you take other classes down the road, that's when we bring in color. And it's easier to use color if you already have an understanding of value. So we'll just be using lines, shapes, and values, and you can have like an infinite number of different ways to combine line, shapes, and values to create interesting compositions. And some other just kind of general vocabulary of kind of what we'll be thinking with this class is you can fill up that composition with abstract shapes or representational imagery. So we'll talk more about this later on. But you can use abstract art, so just simple line, shapes, and values, or you can use representational art where you're actually drawing real things like, trees, people, buildings, whatever it is, or you can work abstractly as well. So you will have the option to try both. I encourage you guys to try, if you really like drawing representationally, try some abstract. If you like doing abstract more, try some representational drawing. And most projects you will have the option of doing one or the other, but I suggest as we go throughout the quarter, kind of trying both as you work. Okay, so we are just going to be designing all sorts of different compositions. So that's the direction this class is going to go. And we'll be designing compositions for different purposes with different, feelings, different moods to them. Compositions that are bold, compositions that are quiet, compositions that have motion, compositions that use shape, compositions that use line, and things like that. So for today, for line, shape, and value, we're going to talk a little bit more and look at some artwork that deals with line. Okay. So line is kind of the simplest, most basic way to make a composition. When you hand a little kid a crayon, they start drawing with line. When I sit down to plan out a drawing, I start with line. So every great artist and every great designer that designs something, whether it's any of these, they'll usually start with some sort of very rough line drawing on a piece of paper. Okay. So that's the way, the most basic and the easiest way to start a drawing, to start a composition, and to start a design is by just using the simple line. But for a line, there's a few things that we want to think about. So line weight and line variety is something that you want to think about. Sorry about that. Line weight is the thickness of the line. So how thick is your line? Is it a medium line? Is it a thin line? Or is it a super thick line? Okay. So line weight is just how thick a line is. And there's specific, very useful ways to control that line weight. So if you're drawing in a sketchbook, you know, you're just physically making the line thicker, or maybe you're using a thicker, thinner pen. And when you're working in Illustrator, you can actually go in and use the program to say, make this line thicker or thinner. And line variety is similar, but there's just all different types of lines. So let's look at some images of different types of line. So here's line weight. It's just the thickness of that, of the line. So you can have some very, very thin lines that barely appear there, kind of a standard line, thicker to really, really thick. So when you're making a drawing, you want to use a variety of line weight. So think about that before you turn in an assignment, as you're working on your sketches. Ask yourself, do I have a variety of line weight in this drawing? So I would suggest kind of sketching down, just in your sketchbook drawing, write down line weight equals thickness, and just draw a few different thicknesses of line there in your sketchbook. But having a variety of thickness and a variety of line weight is a really good way to make your drawing more interesting, basically. Because if you have just the same line weight over and over in your drawing, it becomes a little monotonous and a little boring. But having this line weight really adds depth to your drawing and makes it more visually interesting for someone looking at a drawing. So you can have a variety of line weights. You can also have a variety of types of lines. So look at all these different lines. What would you guys name some of these lines? How would you describe some of these lines here?
Zigzag, straight, squiggly.
Yeah. Zigzag, squiggly. Let me open this here in Photoshop. What about, so I would suggest drawing these lines here in your sketchbook. Weighted, yep, so we got a thick one right here. What about this line right here? What would you guys call that one?
Like a track?
Yeah, dotted line, yep, track of a line. And how about this one right here?
A shaded line?
Yeah, kind of a shaded line, a sketchy line. I call these ones lots of times a textured line. So I drew this here in Photoshop, but it's kind of trying to imitate the texture of real material. So whether it's kind of trying to look like a watercolor line or trying to kind of look like a charcoal line, you know, these digital technologies we have try and kind of imitate real mediums, so real traditional mediums. So being able to use the variety of lines, so use a variety of lines. That's what I'm always going to be looking for in every project. Basically, I don't want to see all your lines the exact same. I want to see a variety of different lines. That will make it more visually interesting. That'll make it pop more. And it kind of moves the viewer's eye around your composition and makes things stand out in different ways. So this is kind of just a good check before you turn in an assignment, just ask yourself, do I have enough line variety in here? You don't need to use all of these types of lines in every single drawing, but using a few different types of lines is always going to be a good idea. Okay, let's look at some variety, some line variety. Okay. So here's a drawing, two drawings. One has a variety of lines and one has all the same line. So this first one here, quick sketch that I did, this all has the same line weight and the same line texture. So all the line weight is the same thickness. And it kind of creates a weird looking drawing, right? It's all the lines are the exact same. They're the same thickness and they're the same kind of smooth texture. So just to be able to do that exact same drawing, I'm not like making the drawing any better. I'm just making there be better line quality here. So more line variety. So you see I have kind of a textured line here in the hair. So it's good to kind of match the line to whatever you're drawing. So hair is usually kind of light, fluffy, has a nice texture to it. So I use a more textured line. The eyebrows, I use lots of short, jagged lines to kind of get the texture of the eyebrow. For the profile of the face, I use a nice thin to thick line, thin to thick. And this thin to thick is kind of trying to imitate as if I was drawing with like an ink brush or something like that. But you can see the second face over here is just a lot more visually interesting. And it will always depend what you're drawing with. So some like thin pins, it's harder to get a line variety because it's just one thickness on the pin. So you have to be creative when you're using short lines or long lines. If you're drawing with a medium like charcoal, you can really get a lot of line variety. And then if you're working digitally, you know, I have all these different brushes here that I draw with in Photoshop. If you use Procreate, you know, there's a lot of different brushes, but these are all basically to get different line qualities. And in Illustrator, there's a whole bunch of ways to get line qualities as well. So always ask yourself, do I have a variety of lines in each drawing? You can see a similar example right here. So here again, the one on the left, all the same line weight. And it's really, it doesn't have as much organization in the image. All these buildings and the clouds are equal importance, okay? So putting a thick line around something will make it bold and make it stand out. So here, this building in the foreground with the thick line around it, this makes it stand out more. And it also makes us feel closer to the viewer. So it helps with depth in there and it makes things stand out by using a really thick line. And this cloud here in the background, that's not as important of a part of the drawing. So that's why I put a really thin line around it. So thin lines make things less important and it makes things feel further away. So just mixing up that line quality again is going to create a more successful drawing. Here's another example. So this is just a representational example here. All the same line thickness. Again, it's kind of hard to look at. You can't really tell what's important, what's not important, what's close to us, what's far away. So rather than that, it is better to use a variety of line thicknesses. So this organizes the image so much better. Thick lines here in the foreground, thin lines off in the distance. And think about what you're drawing. So clouds are light and fluffy. So I want to use a very light, a thin line to make those clouds feel like they can float. And I put a thicker line right here around the lighthouse to make it feel, to make it stand out more to the viewer. So those bold lines attract attention and make things feel closer. Thin lines are less important, make things feel further away. So for your drawing challenge this week, it will be a drawing kind of similar to this, where I'll say, redo this drawing with more interesting or more variety of line to make it more interesting. And that will be a good way to help you kind of just see the difference in those line qualities.
And will that be in your notebook or Adobe?
Oh, good question. That will just be in your sketchbook. Yep.
Awesome.
So most of the drawing challenges through the week will just be in your sketchbook. Okay, so you can just, I want them to be quick sketches. So whatever you work on in your sketchbook, you'll just take a picture and then post that picture to the discussion. So most classes I will like bring in artwork of professional artists that are masters. That's a really good way to just get better at drawing, is to look at really good art. Oh, Reagan, good question. Do you prefer to use pen or pencil? I do not have a preference. I would prefer for you to kind of mix it up. So sometimes use pen, sometimes use pencil. The big thing with pencil, or the advantage of pen, is that you can erase. So you can't really go backwards. With pencil, sometimes people worry about getting everything too perfect, and they do one line and erase it. It's not quite right. One line, oh, erase it. Let me adjust it. One line, let me erase it. So I don't want you to worry about making a drawing completely perfect. I would rather you do the drawing and just kind of keep moving forward. And if there's some little mistakes in it, to not worry about it. So that's what I oftentimes like to sketch with pen, because I can't go back and erase and change things. It forces me to keep moving forward and keep working on the drawing. So a really good way to become better at art is to look at good artists. So this is the artist Glenn Keane. He was the lead animator for a number of 90s Disney movies. This is Beast from Beauty and the Beast. He worked on Aladdin and Little Mermaid and Tarzan and all those sorts of movies. So can you guys tell what he's drawing with here? What sort of medium? What tool he's using to draw? Yeah, charcoal, exactly. So charcoal feels very different than like a thin technical pen like this. So charcoal allows you to get a lot of line variety in the drawing. So you can see he has some super thick dark lines right here around the eyes and the eyebrows and around the nose. But he also has very loose kind of texture lines here. And so the purpose of this drawing is just for practice. He was practicing drawing the character, figuring out how the character will show emotion on the face. What are the different shapes I'm using for this character? How can I show weight with the character? So he can keep it really loose and imperfect. This isn't going to be the final art that's in the film. So he's playing around, and he can really exaggerate that line quality difference. So you get really nice thick lines and then lighter texture lines. But the kind of the dark lines draw your attention right here to the facial expression. So really powerful and really good variety of line here. So that's Glenn Keane. And because he's doing it for animation, he will, he can do it loose. Here's another one of his. Right there. Same idea. Okay. And then here's another artist. This is Mobius. So he's working with a thin technical pen. So the way this artist used line is very different. Yeah, exactly. The previous one was very dynamic. So this one is much more calculated, much more careful with this thin pen drawing with this. So you can see you can get both of these artists are using line, but this artist Mobius, he does a bunch of like sci-fi comics. He worked in the 70s, French artist. His style is very, very calculated, very planned, very formal. But he's using line. He doesn't get a lot of variety in thickness, but he uses short lines here on the skin. He layers up to get dark lines around the lips. He has some really long lines. He repeats lines to get three-dimensional form. So every artist uses line in some way, but depending on what medium they're using and how their style is, they will get different kind of effects with the line. This is Bruce Timm. He's drawing with a brush pen, so you can see thin to thick lines, thick to thin, so good variety there. And then this is Egon Schiele. I like this one for an example of texture lines. So look how rough and textured and kind of scribbly this line is around these figures that he's drawn. So he's drawing with like Conte crayon on a rough paper or chalk pastel on a rough paper. So very different lines. So all these artists are using lines, but in very different ways. Okay. Here's another ink. This is Charles Gibson. So he's using a fine ink line as well, but thicker lines in the hair, very thin lines around the face, even thinner lines to use for like shading on the faces as well. Okay. So like I said, we will have a drawing challenge that I will send you guys tomorrow. It'll be worth about 5 points, and it'll just be a couple exercises of how to do some drawings with different line varieties in there. But yeah, that'll be it for today. And next week we'll do, I will send you some more videos to watch to make sure you're keeping up on Adobe Illustrator. Yeah, I will send you guys the drawing challenge tomorrow, and I'm starting my lab hours next week. So next week I'll start those lab hours if you guys need to pop in and ask questions, but they're all there on Canvas. But yeah, that will be it for today. Let me know if you have any questions before you head out. Other than that, I will see you guys in a week. Just kind of keep an eye on your Canvas messages for different updates from the class.